how can you grow your own food at home? Now, there's three main questions that I ask myself every time I look at setting up my next garden or a new garden. And that is, what do I want to grow? Where do I want to grow it? And how do I want to grow it? And those three questions can certainly be broken down into a lot more things, but growing your own food really breaks down to those three things. Now, when I'm looking at what do I want to grow, that can be anything from your favorite vegetables that you use on a regular basis with your family. It can be teas and herbs that you want to have in and around your house. It can also be medicinal purposes. So any kind of plant that can grow, especially when you're looking at growing your own food, can be any of those three categories. What I recommend if you're just getting started is that you go and look at what you actually use in your house first. Figure out what those plants are. My kids love peas, so peas are one of my primary things that I grow on a regular basis. The other thing that my kids love are tomatoes and cucumbers, so of course we're going to grow those. But you can grow anything you want. It's just, if you're going to grow something, you may as well get a benefit out of it that you enjoy, like the food that you eat and eating fresh. At least that's my opinion. And if you're not going to use it, then you're going to have to find a place to give it away. So if you are going to grow something because you think it's a cool plant and you want to grow it, awesome, good on you. Really wish you much success with that. Please find somewhere that you can donate any of the fruit or vegetables that you won't be eating. I know sometimes local harvest and food banks areas won't accept fresh grown, but you can call them and ask. And if you get to your neighbors, family, friends, people who don't grow any vegetables, sometimes they appreciate it too. The second question that I ask myself is, where am I growing it? Now, this can be as simple as, am I doing it indoors or outdoors? But it's also, am I in a city? Am I in a small town? Am I on a farm? Am I dealing with an apartment space? Those kinds of things can restrict the amount of space that you have. And while you can certainly grow in all those spaces, there might also be some rules that your municipality, your city, your town, the space that you're in, the apartment building, if you're in an apartment, sometimes they have rules and regulations around what you can and cannot do in that space. So make sure you're checking that it's okay to do that. The other thing is, there are things like community gardens where you can rent space to go and grow your produce. I know there's a number of them around the city where I live, and while I don't take advantage of them, simply because I have the space, other people do. And I drive past them and I see some pretty amazing gardens in there. It will take more work if you have to do something like that, but you can definitely do stuff like that if you're significantly restricted on space. The other thing I ask about location is something like, what are my frost dates? So this is a climate awareness thing. So I need to know when my last frost is in the spring and when my first frost is in the fall, because the closer those two are together, the more likely you're going to have some problems with certain hot crops that require the extra heat. It also helps you plan for things like putting in cold loving crops like your brassicas, think broccoli, cauliflower, stuff like that. So it helps you with planning the what as well and when you're going to put them in. You're also going to want to see what your sun exposure is, because just because it's outside doesn't mean it's going to get enough sunlight in order to produce a fruit or a vegetable. You need an average of 6 hours of direct sunlight exposure for your crops that are fruiting to provide an actual fruit. You're also going to want to look at what else is in the area, like wind exposure, if you need to put in a windbreak, or if you're looking at any kind of animals coming through your yard. We had a lot of deer this year that ate a ton of my garden. None of my peas made it, even though I planted lots. Things like that can be impactful on what you're growing. The last question I ask is the how. Now, a lot of people are like, what do you mean, how do you grow? How do you grow plants? Well, plant does the actual growing, but there's a lot of different techniques and methods that gardeners use in order to get their ideal crop based on what they're looking for. This can be something like growing in soil or growing in a hydroponics system. Do you want to DIY your hydroponic system? Do you want to DIY an in-ground bed? Do you want to DIY a raised bed? Do you want to till the soil by hand? Things like that. Are you looking at doing organic or with chemicals? We're also looking for, are you starting your own seeds indoors like I do behind me here? Or are you going to buy from the greenhouse? Because that's going to impact how much time you spend and your facilities that you need indoors when you spend it. So there's a lot of questions underneath those, but those 3 main questions are the big ones to answer when you're starting a garden with the intention of growing your own food. Again, those are, what do you want to grow? Where do you want to grow it? And how do you want to grow it? So if you can answer those 3 questions, you can grow your own garden. You can grow your own food.